I'm going to tell you about a man who failed in business, was defeated for a state legislature, failed in business again. Then he had a nervous breakdown, he lost an election, was defeated for Congress, was defeated for Congress again, and then defeated for Congress again. And then he was defeated for the Senate, and then he was defeated for the Vice President, and then he was defeated for the Senate again. Then he got elected president, and his name is Abraham Lincoln. Walt Disney went bankrupt multiple times before he ever even made a Mickey Mouse cartoon. And what I'm trying to say is not just that, oh, everyone makes mistakes, because we already know that. But what I'm trying to say is that leaders will almost certainly always fail. Successful people will almost always certainly fail. So, as men who aspire to be great and successful, we must learn to actually adapt and recover from failure. My name is Julian. My friend Anton and I are on a mission to help young men develop leadership through self-improvement and wellness. Let's talk about failure. It's scary, it's ugly, it's unpredictable, but most importantly, it is inevitable. The man who can understand and accept this will be the one that succeeds. Because failure is most often a symptom of risk. High risk, high reward. So yes, if you never step out of your comfort zone, you never have to worry about failure. But the downside to that is also that you never get to win. And this is what separates successful leaders from just followers. Leaders take responsibility for risk. They step forward knowing that they can fail, but they still go anyways. They'll have doubters, they'll have naysayers, they'll have people who will want them to fail. But instead of running away from risk, they embrace it. Failure is a tool, and the only question is, will you use it, or will you let it break you? So what do you do when you fail? Well, let's go back to Lincoln and Disney. Lincoln failed and lost so many elections, but is he a bad politician? Disney went bankrupt multiple times. Does that make him a bad entrepreneur? Nobody looks at Lincoln or Disney and thinks of them as failures, though. Why? Because they adapted. Every successful leader in history has been in the exact same place. The thing that made them different, though, was that they learned, adapted, and moved forward. Think about video games when you're going to go and fight like a really hard boss, and you keep dying over and over again. You spend hours and hours, but eventually you find a strategy, you overcome, and you win. You didn't let all those failures define you. Now imagine if you quit after the first few deaths. This is what most men do in life. But successful leaders detach from emotion, they analyze their mistakes, and they adapt. This is why most men can't lead. They make mistakes and they take it personally, and then they give up. But you'll only ever truly, truly fail if you completely give up. Now I want to make a quick analogy with the gym and training to failure. When people tell me that they train to failure, I ask them, oh, so when you're squatting, do you squat all the way until you can't re-rack the weight and you have to use the safety? And then they tell me, no. Well, that isn't failure. And that's the problem that a lot of people have. They're too scared to embrace the fear. Embracing failure, even in the gym, is not when you're bench pressing and you have one rep left and you realize, well, if I have one rep left, I might as well just re-rack it. Embracing failure is realizing, okay, I have one rep left, let's see if I can do it. And then you realize you have 5 more. And then you have to come and get a spotter because your last rep is not going to be able to move. And then you get up, you get the bar cleared, and you realize every single muscle in your body is just shaking because you went all the way to the point of failure. So many people stop when it gets uncomfortable and it gets challenging. Just like how when I go to squat, I have a lot of weight and I get nervous and a little scared because I know that I'm going to failure and I won't be able to bring all this weight back up and I'm not going to get back up. Too many people are afraid of going all the way there. And to tie this back into leadership, think about an officer leading his troops into a battle. He's terrified because he knows there's not a high chance of him or his men coming back from the battle. But regardless, he still has a mission to accomplish, and therefore he must go on and face his fears and embrace it. Taking risks as a leader it's terrifying, but there's no true way to overcome it. You can really only just accept the fear. So since we've discussed that failure is inevitable, how can we minimize our chances of failing? First, we have to plan. Now, you may have heard of the 5 Ps before. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And this is something that applies to leadership 100%. Before you take action or make a decision, you have to think to yourself, what are my chances of failing? What happens when I fail? What's my backup plan? How will my teammates react? And other such factors. This doesn't completely negate the chances of failing, but it does minimize the chances. And secondly, we want to communicate. Being a successful leader also means being a good teammate and also understanding that there are other people that know more than you. No matter how skilled you are, you have to understand that someone else might have a different point of view that can alter your decision making. This can also help with making other people around you feel like they're being heard and listened to. And that's very important for a successful team. This is how true leaders think. So let's do a recap. Failure is inevitable, but it doesn't define success. In order to be successful, you have to take a risk and step up. Most men are afraid to do this. You must detach your emotion from failure in order to adapt. And planning and communication will help you in minimizing your chances of failure. If you want to be the man who steps up and takes action as a leader, and you want to develop your leadership skills, consider joining Men's Group Wellness and Betterment. It's the community that we've created to help teach young men leadership through self-improvement. It's the only link in the description.